Hey, Andrew.
What's up?
Another. Wait. Refresh page. Try again. Problem persists. Please contact customer support. Let me try this. Let's hope nothing bad happens.
It also told me to plug my power in, even though I'm fully charged. So maybe that'll help.
Who knows? Okay. I guess this is take 2 on episode 2.
Right?
We tried this a week or so ago, and for some reason, Riverside, something happened with the download, and we didn't get it.
But
So
we're back.
We're trying again, and instead
We're back
of
to the future. Sorry.
that's one of my picks.
Oh,
Instead of rambling on forever, we're going to actually try to have a point this time.
we're going to dive right into this shit.
And I was born in 1973. Andrew, you were in 73 as well, right?
Yeah, like we're 5 months apart.
Which put us square. Well, I'm at the end of. Never mind. Which
Aren't
put
you
us
like November?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 6 months. Yeah.
I keep forgetting you're older.
Yeah. About 6 months.
But we both pretty much grew up during the 80s. And so we thought we would just kind of talk about some of the cool shit we remember from the 80s.
Well, this was my idea for the podcast, right? Dude, the 80s just had, to me, and this is not nostalgia, I don't think. Could be. Maybe people that grew up in the 50s think the 50s was the greatest. I personally believe that the best movies and the best music came out in a time span between about 1982 and 1987. You know?
A lot of cool shit happened during that time, not just in music and movies. Look at some of the technology that came out during that time, that some form of it is still being used today.
Right.
Like,
I think almost on the opposite of that is the fact that we didn't have technology. You know what I'm saying?
But I think that the technology I was thinking of that I think really impacted the way technology has moved since then in the last 40 something years, the VCR. The first time you could watch movies at home and you didn't have to just watch what was on TV. You could put in a movie and play it right there in your house.
Yeah, I think.
Which sounds normal now. Everybody's got streaming service on your phone, on your tablet, and your fucking car. And it's no big deal to just turn on the movie and watch whatever you want whenever you want. But, when we were kids in the 80s, you watched what was on TV, or that was it.
I mean, you wanted to see the next episode of The Cosby Show, you had to wait a week.
And
I think some TV shows do that. Right. I think some streaming shows still do that, but 90% of them, as soon as the season comes out, you can binge it in a day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing, if you wanted to see that episode of The Cosby Show or Who's the Boss, that was my favorite because of Alyssa Milano. But if you wanted to watch the next episode, but maybe you missed the last episode,
yeah,
that was it.
You were shit out of luck until rerun season.
Yeah, until the off season came around and they reran it.
Right.
And you hope they reran it in order. Sometimes it would put them out just whatever episode during the off season.
Now you said Who's the Boss was your favorite 80s sitcom?
I don't know if it would be my favorite.
But Alyssa Milano. I get it.
Oh, Milano.
Tony Danza, Alyssa Milano.
Yeah. I forgot the blonde woman's name.
Her last name is Lightfoot.
I don't know.
Something like that.
But I mean, even the other piece of technology I was going to bring up is the Walkman.
Yeah. What year did the Walkman come out?
It was in the 80s. like 81, 82. I can look it up exactly, but I just watched a kind of a documentary show about some of the inventions that changed the world, and the Sony recorder, which recorded to cassette, was their bread and butter, but that was being used in like business meetings. So somebody didn't have to sit there and write everything down. You had a recording of the whole thing. Courts were using tape recorders, but Sony wanted to make something smaller. So they got rid of the ability to record and took out the internal speaker.
Right.
For the first time, you saw everybody walking around with headphones on, and that meant they had a Walkman. And I think the first ones didn't even have a radio function to them.
I don't think they did either. I think it was cassette only.
But I think when they came out with a built-in transistor radio in the Walkman, it pretty much sucked. So all you did was listen to tapes.
Right.
It was the first time we could take music with us and keep it personal.
Right.
They had the big portable boom boxes, but
because I was just about to say, when I was a kid, I didn't get a Walkman like whenever, well, I have to say, not a lot of kids did get them because they were expensive.
I didn't get a Sony one.
I didn't get a Walkman probably till I was in high school, and I'm pretty sure that Walkman came out in the early '80s.
Yeah,
the big block that you put around. You had a strap. I remember it had a strap. Like a purse. Yeah. This thing was like about this big. Like it was big. It was a chunk of. And
if you think about around that time too, at least in America, Americans were getting more into fitness, and they were watching like Jane Fonda workout tapes, and people were going running, and taking care of yourself and exercising became almost a fad. I think most of it was.
Oh yeah, absolutely was.
But now all of a sudden people are jogging with Walkmans on so they can listen to their music. And that translated into what eventually became the iPod, which then just became a part of the phone. Now every phone maker's got a music player you can stream from Spotify or Apple Music, Amazon Music. There's billions of different ways you can just touch a button and hear a song recorded in 1965 while you're driving down the street or jogging or whatever.
You have to think about the Walkman too. Is unless you had a backpack full of cassettes, you had one tape. If you were out jogging for an hour, you were going to listen to one album all the way through. You couldn't shuffle, and then you get you. That's where the iPod comes in. Is it had songs on there you could buy off the Apple, whatever that thing's called, the iTunes store. And or did you have to load them on? I never owned an iPod ever. I wanted one. Did you have to download the music on there, or could you buy the music off the iPod?
The early iPods didn't have internet connectivity,
so you had to take your
download the computer onto your computer, load them into iTunes, make your playlist, and then export your playlist onto your iPod.
Right.
Once the iPhone and the iPod Touch came around in the 2006, 2007, somewhere in that neighborhood. Then you had internet connectivity on your phone or your iPod, because the iPod Touch was just an iPhone without the phone and texting function.
Right.
Then you could download directly into your. But now we don't even have to download them. We just stream them. They come from nowhere. You don't buy an album for that one song you liked anymore.
No. No, you don't.
Now
they buy singles. Everybody buys singles these days.
I don't even buy.
I've never bought a fucking song in my life. Oh, I take that back. I did buy Tool's last record. I paid on the iTunes store. Other than that, I don't think I've ever bought a song anywhere. I paid like 99 cents for a song. There's so many places to get it. I mean, on your phone. You don't even have I don't understand why you would buy it unless you wanted to own it on it. But then it's all my songs are on my phone. They don't ever go anywhere.
But in the 80s, if you didn't have a Walkman, or Walkman was the name of the Sony one. There were about 500 different ones on the market, but Sony was the
They were
one
the
that
they were the very first, and I bet it took a year for the others to, trickle into the
catch up.
market. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
but
were the big dogs, though.
it didn't matter who made it. Everybody just called them a Walkman.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, do you have a Walkman? That name of the product became the overall name for all of them that were made.
Like
And
Xerox machine.
and when iPods came around, and I was trying to explain to my parents what an iPod was, I was like, the first thing I told them was, it's like a Walkman without the tape.
And they didn't understand that?
They got it, but they're much older, but going from having nothing, when you went outside of your house, you were cut off from listening to what you wanted to listen to.
Yeah.
To all of a sudden, you can put these headphones on, and I was a little bit. I think I was in middle school when I got a knockoff Walkman from Kmart, something else that was around in the '80s. It's not anymore. I would jump on my bike and just ride around listening to the tapes my mom didn't know I had.
Right. I actually had a big boombox. And I used to carry that thing skateboarding, or I'd carry it down to the basketball court to shoot hoops. I used to carry that thing around all the time. So Walkman, I'd dying for one. But me asking my dad in 1985 to buy me a Walkman is like Isabella coming and asking me to buy a fucking MacBook Pro.
I mean, yeah, they were.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I know. I mean,
And my dad was just like, no.
I think that was. I think the year I got a Walkman, that was, every year, at least growing up in my family, you got one big Christmas present and then maybe a few small ones.
Right.
My Walkman was my big Christmas present.
And what year did you get? Like, how old were you when you got that?
Probably 11 or 12.
So that'd have been
80.
What, 85, 86?
Yeah, 85, 86. Yeah. And that was really the time period I really started getting more into music.
Yeah.
Before that, the early part of the 80s, I listened to what my parents listened to, what my mom was listening to.
What do you think of... I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was going to say, in 1986 or 87, maybe, I don't fucking remember. Mm-hmm. I was living in Mississippi, and we had, there's like the little bike gang, you kids on your bikes.
Yeah.
And no, actually, this was before that, so it had probably been 84. I was actually in South Carolina. I wasn't skateboarding yet, quite. So I was riding up BM. Anyway, kid comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, check this out. I got this new thing called a Walkman." I was like, "What? That's pretty cool." He goes, "Put this on your ears. This is a band called Def Leppard." I went, "Def what? Def Leppard?" He put that shit on my ears, blasted the first song off of Pyromania, and I went. Anyway, that's the first song I ever listened to on a Walkman.
Well, even just having a cassette was a big deal, because prior to that, the only way you could buy music and take it home and play it when you wanted to was on a big 12-inch vinyl or the little 45s.
Yeah.
And none of those were portable. You could,
or the 8-track, but nobody listened to an 8-track in their home. That was a car in your car thing, right?
Yeah, 8-tracks.
I don't think they had 8-track players for home, but who knows?
But we had a record player. My mom had the crates of 12-inch vinyl. And I remember thinking, that's so old. Get rid of that crap. Now people are going out spending hundreds of dollars on that shit.
I actually have a record player I just got for Valentine's Day. Yeah. And I got 2 records. I got Prince's Purple Rain and Run the Jewels. And I had a record player in Illinois, and we probably had about 40 records. So I have a new record player, and I got 42 records now.
Cool.
I love listening to vinyl. Love it.
I get the appeal of vinyl.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that people didn't like about cassettes, is all of a sudden that pop and hiss and that stuff of the needle dragging over it. All that was gone because the cassette was so much cleaner, and the sound quality was so much better. What you doing, buddy?
Oh, they've said the same thing about CDs and digital music.
Yeah,
I think
and
that's
there's
why a
CDs.
lot of true, like,
I think
well, I don't want to say true music fans, but people that really love music. Oh my God, there's only one way to watch or listen to fucking music,
well,
and that's fucking vinyl, you know?
I think that goes off even into a different um, a different subcategory of people or hobbyists, and that's just the audiophiles, the people who
Right.
have this super nice turntables and the really nice amplifiers and the great speakers, and they're spending thousands of dollars on it, and that's their hobby. That's a different subcategory.
That's a
You don't have to be that guy to enjoy
no.
music. I mean, have you ever seen any of the Henry Rollins showing off his stuff? He's got this
No, but I can imagine.
He's got this incredible collection of vinyl that he'll bring people in, and somebody made a comment on one of his videos and says, this is kind of funny because, you know, Rollins isn't a big flashy guy. He's not living in a Beverly Hills mansion. I think he's got an apartment in New York or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
But the guy was like, leave it to Rollins to put $5,000 speakers in a $2,000 apartment.
Right.
Because it was like bare.
And who knows what the cost of his albums were.
Oh, know? Yeah.
So Jessica's longtime friend in Amarillo, her boyfriend, is an audiophile. He probably has, if I had to take a guess, 1,000 albums and a very nice record player, very nice speakers. Like, he's got money invested in this. Mm-hmm. It's the shit he likes to do. He likes to listen to fucking albums. Yeah. And he has every fucking genre of music you can, from fucking classical, jazz, house music, metal, pop. I mean, if you were to take 1,000 albums, just mix it all in there. And I thought to myself, well, fuck, dude, I like music, but there ain't never a time I pull out a fucking Beethoven album and put it on and rock out.
And
just not going to do that. But I think it's cool that he does that because that's his thing. You can make fun about me, all the fucking, you know, money and time I put into guitars and shit. Like, you spend how much on a fucking guitar? But anyway, I think albums are the shit, dude. They're expensive as fuck now. I actually looked at the price of one of my albums. I didn't know I paid about to pay $48 for a fucking album.
I saw one at Target for like $100. It was some Taylor Swift special edition shit.
Oh, God,
$100. And I was like, eh. I wouldn't care if it was a Metallica record. I'm not paying $100 for it.
The Walkman is a purely 80s thing.
Yeah, I think by the time the 90s
it's
came
iconic.
Around, they started making like Discmen and stuff like that, which I never liked because if you're doing anything active with a compact disc player on your hip,
yeah,
it skips. So I just liked having the tape player better. But
I ain't gonna lie, I love Spotify.
It's so easy. The two things we brought up, the VCR and the Walkman, primarily were used for two things: watching movies and listening to music. What are some of your favorite movies from the 80s?
So, my favorite movie of the 80s of all time is Top Gun. I love all of John Hughes's films. Beverly Hills Cop. I mean, there's probably not a movie in the 80s that I don't think is good. I could watch them all day long. Like, to me, Top Gun is that movie. I could go in there and put it on right now, and I've seen the freaking thing 100, 200 times.
I think,
I don't know. Top Gun is probably my favorite movie, but
that when that movie came out, you saw recruitment in the Navy skyrocket. All these people wanted to go be a Navy fighter pilot.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I don't think you've done your research. And I was a kid at the time, and I was like, I can't wait to go join the Navy.
But to answer your question,
by the
really,
time you research what it takes to be one of those pilots, you're going,
right?
Yeah. I don't think your ass is gonna make it. You cheated off me in math class.
But what really defined my movie going, and I think kind of defined 80s culture in general, or maybe didn't, maybe just, what's the word? Like reported on it,
Mm-hmm.
was John Hughes.
Oh yeah, John Hughes is responsible for those '80s movies that everybody has seen.
I mean, The Breakfast Club
Pretty in Pink,
defines,
16 Candles.
yes, I those two movies. I mean, I knew people like that. I was that. I was those kids. You know what I'm saying?
The
It's
Breakfast
so
Club
weird.
was.
Like the Breakfast Club has the jock, the fucking nerd, the
Mhm.
princess, the sports guy, or the jock.
Yeah.
Bender would be like the stoner, and then the crazy cat lady in the back. I had all. I knew all those. Like I knew every one of those kids in my high school.
Yeah, it was. It's like they just handpicked. Okay, one from this group, one from this group, and putting them together in a situation like that, I thought was
I mean,
genius.
it's brilliant.
Just because it showed, and it's all stereotypical, because it showed the differences between each one of the groups, and then the longer they got to be around each other, we started seeing more similarities in
Yeah,
each one of them.
there's a big part in that movie when they're all sitting in the library and they're all talking, or not the library, in the I guess it's the library, but it's like a reference room. They're in that little room
Yeah,
anyway. They're all talking, and they find out once they get to know each other, they're pretty similar, and they kind of
yeah,
like each other. I might not
and
like the way you dress, but I like you, man. You're cool. Same
yeah,
shit in high school, in junior high and high school. Same fucking shit happened.
hmm
The people, the people that I thought would never like accept me into their little whatever you want to call it,
yeah.
dude, we were cool. I still talk to these people today. Like you would look at them and go, "What the y'all hung out in high school?" Like, yeah, we did.
But I think one of the things that kind of stands out about the '80s, and I think it holds true in movies, it holds true in music, uh, all across the board, even into sports, was the '60s and the '70s. That took a culture that went from normal accepted in society and said we're going to go over here, and you had the whole counterculture movement with
Yes,
the
right.
hippies and shit
Yep.
like that. Then in the '70s, it kind of migrated more into the disco party crowd, where that was also outside of the normal accepted society. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the '80s brought those outliers, the people who weren't buttoned up, nice, clean haircut, and press shirt, normal accepted
Yeah.
society, and kind of blended them more. You
Yeah.
started seeing things that were considered pre today would be no big deal, but prior to maybe that mid '80s time period, people like Cyndi Lauper, she would have never been accepted on top 40 radio, and Madonna, she would have been a rebel
Oh yeah.
in the
Yep.
'70s, but in the '80s, everything went to the excess.
Right. Like one thing about the '80s too is and it was not the word's not wholesome, like organic, because you didn't have auto tune in the studio. You didn't have CGI in movies.
Mm.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
is a little bit more organic. Like,
well, I think it was a little bit more practical in the sense that whatever you heard was created by a human. Whatever you saw on the screen was actually done either with a stunt or with miniatures or matte painting, stuff like that. It wasn't somebody creating a virtual character and throwing it into it
right,
until, I mean, we didn't even start seeing really animated mixed with live action until Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And
right.
was that even in the '80s? It may have been in the
I kind
'90s.
of want to say that's maybe like 90 or 91, but I could be
early
wrong.
90s. Yeah. So, I mean, when you watch like Blade Runner, they had to build all those sets.
Yeah.
And that was an early 80s movie. And Terminator was, I think, 84 or 85.
Yep.
They had
1985, I believe.
all that stuff had to be practically done effects. You go back and look at it now with what we're used to watching with Marvel movies and the Hulk smashing buildings in half. It looks like somebody's student film, but in the mid 80s when you saw the Terminator, that was some badass shit.
You're right. Yeah, I'm not saying I don't like
Yeah.
fucking modern movies at all. I just think like back then I was a little more like organic is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah. And I agree with you. Like you watch the movies that stand out to me, and there were thousands of movies, of course, that came out in the 80s, but the movies that stand out to me kind of take that premise, but really what makes the movie itself are the characters and the way that they interact with each other and the way the actors portray them. And I think a lot more of that had to be done then. One, because filming was a shitload more expensive because you didn't have digital cameras. So everything went on to film. So actors had to be good and they had to get it right or they didn't get to work anymore. And you had to do so much to tell a story with just whatever actors you have.
Without without relying on the FX department to
Yeah.
make a slot machine out there. You know what I'm saying? All the explosions, that's like a slot machine to humans. That's
But
why we
like,
like, even if you win 5 cents on a slot machine, you know,
yeah.
yeah.
But maybe I pulled up a list, a thing here just to kind of make sure I remembered what I was talking about. But Top Gun, one of my favorite movies. Um, but you think about Bull Durham that came out in the 80s. I forget which year.
That's probably like 88.
Well, it may
I'm
have
going to
been a little
guess
bit.
80, 87,
I
88.
think
Funny as
Cosner
fucking,
did.
movie's fucking funny as hell.
I think Cosner did Field of Dreams after he did Bull Durham. So Bull Durham may have been closer to mid 80s. But that was based on a real guy. Nuclear Lelouch was
No, I had no idea.
a guy named Steve Delkowski, who was a pitcher for the Orioles in sometime around the mid 60s. But they said he could throw as hard or harder than anybody else alive, but nobody knew where it was going to go. They said there were times where he would throw. He couldn't throw inside the
What was
batting.
his last name?
Delkowski, Steve Delkowski.
He's not the guy called the Mad Hungarian, is he?
No, that's Al Roboski. He was a pitcher for the Cardinals. No, Steve Delkowski. I felt so bad for him. He pitched in the minor leagues, and he led every year he pitched in the minor leagues in strikeouts and walks, and hit by pitch and wild pitch. He just had no control whatsoever, but was throwing 100 plus in the 60s. And he finally started getting his control together. And in the spring training game, coming off the mound to field a bunt, blew his knee out, never pitched again.
Now, what's your favorite 80s baseball movie?
Ooh.
This is easy, dude.
I got to look it up to see if it came out in the 80s. Yes, 1989, Major League.
Thank you. I was going to give you a hint and go, Wild Thing.
No.
That's the best goddamn fucking baseball movie ever.
It's my favorite sports movie. It was.
Oh, shit.
It was
I can't go down that hall. Because the best sports movie is probably, to me, Remember the Titans.
Very good movie. But I watch Major League probably once a month.
The best line in that movie goes, "What league you been in?" The California Penal.
California Penal.
And when homie wakes up on his bed and he runs down the first base line in his pajamas, it's just like
Shit, I've been cut already.
Dude, that fucking movie's so funny.
My favorite part of the whole movie was when Corbin Burnson, Roger Dorn, the third baseman, comes over with his contract about those, those sit-ups you told me to do. And Lou just drops it, pisses all over it, and walks off.
Just a bit outside the great Bob Uecker.
Oh, Bob Uecker was he made that movie. Did you know? Now, I saw this on a documentary because I watch entirely too many documentaries, but they had him named something else. The character's name was something else.
Bob Uecker's character?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Bob Uecker came in and said, "Hey, can I change his first name to Harry?" I'm like, yeah, fuck, we don't give a shit. It's just the announcer. We don't care what his name is. But he changed it to Harry to honor Harry Carey from the Cubs.
Oh,
and
shit.
That's why,
I didn't know that.
That's why he was always drinking in the booth and sounded drunk.
God damn. Just a bit outside. Love that movie.
But Uecker said when he read what they written for the commentator to say, he just turned and looked at him and he said, "This is bullshit. No commentator would ever say any of this." And they were like, "Okay, look, you get the plot points down. If the announcer if Bob Uecker was talking about something that was happening in the movie and not just calling the baseball game."
Yeah.
They said, "You stick to the punch out in the script. Other than that, do whatever you want to do." So all that iconic stuff he was saying, he made all that up as he
I can imagine he fucking just freeballed it, dude. Just went after it.
Well, like they would tell, like he wasn't watching a game and calling it. They would show him he said he was in
he's just like in a room.
The time he wasn't on camera, but it was just his voiceover. He was just watching the film that he was going to be voicing over. And that's what he came up with, just a bit outside. And ball 4, ball 8,
fuck
ball 12.
Now, that other baseball movie of the 80s would be probably The Natural.
Yeah, that one wasn't one of my favorites because of how old I was. I was a kid at the time, and baseball was fun. I loved baseball. And so I wanted all my baseball movies to be fun. Like,
did you like the Ty Cobb movie? And I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that was much later. You talking
was
about
that late? Is that in the 90s?
Yeah, it was at least the 90s, if not early 2000s. You talking about the one with Tommy Lee Jones and Robert Wall?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the biggest piece of shit ever made.
Oh, you didn't like it?
Because the book that it was based on was full of lies.
So he wasn't an a-hole?
Oh, he was an asshole, but he just wasn't that much of an asshole.
That much of one? Okay.
The writer pumped up how much of an asshole he was for the book that became the movie. But anybody who knew Ty Cobb, of course they're all dead now, but knew him, they were like, he wasn't like that. He wasn't. They said he wasn't racist at all. That he might drop the N-word every now and then because he came from Georgia in the early 1900s. Right. That was just another word. The people at that time didn't mean it as a racist term. It was just a word.
And you liked Field of Dreams?
I like it. I just got a little too sappy for me.
Yeah.
But it did have the great James Earl Jones in it.
I was trying to think of the other good baseball movies. 12 Men Out, I think, was
8 Men Out.
Or 8 Men Out, I think, was the 90s. I can't really even think of any good football movies in the 80s. I know there was some good football played.
Would have been like The Longest Yard.
Yeah, well, I think The Longest Yard was in the 70s.
Yeah. But dude, I'm just going to go down through here. I pulled this up in preparation. I'm just going to just these are movies that came out, and all I put into Google was top movies of the 80s.
All right.
So this isn't by year or anything like that, and I'm not going to go through and read every one of them, but the ones that stand out: Full Metal Jacket, Bull Durham, E.T., Stand By Me, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Shining, The Goonies, The Breakfast Club, Die Hard. I'm on the fourth row. And Lethal Weapon, Good Morning Vietnam, Stripes. Jeez. Caddyshack.
Caddyshack.
That was an all-time funny. And another thing that I don't know how prevalent it was or how popular it was prior to the 80s, but we started seeing super crazy like spoof movies where they're making
Yeah.
fun of other stuff. I'm talking
Yeah.
like the Naked Gun, airplane
Yeah.
movies, ones like those. And you started seeing not just because I remembered horror movies being like Halloween. They weren't grotesque slasher, just being scary for the sake of being scary. But
Well, the 80s was the heyday
of the
of
slasher
horror.
movie,
Of all horror movies. They can't. Every horror movie is the same today.
I don't
What?
watch them, so
Hold
I
on.
couldn't tell you.
Can I call my dad?
Where's your phone? Here. Sorry, Jeff. Hold on. You want WhatsApp or what? Or do you just want to call him? Oh, there you go. Now you know how to do it.
Yeah.
Y'all gotta get ready there. You got 30 minutes. Sorry. Got to do fatherly duties.
Hey, that's a job that never stops. But not just going through and looking at this, just some of these movies. I mean, there was some awesome stuff made in the 80s, and we didn't even get into all the Schwarzenegger movies.
No, that was like, and Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, because I think the only Rocky
That
that came
literally.
out in
I was
this
gonna say the
was
80s
the
was.
first one.
What's that?
Came out before the 80s. I think was the first.
It did.
Rocky.
Rocky came out in like 77, 78.
Yeah, but like Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rocky 4,
Yes.
all those were in the 80s. And Rocky 4 was still my favorite with Ivan Drago.
That's.
Or is that Rocky 3?
I like that one, and I like the one with Mr. T.
That
But I
was
think my
Rocky
favorite
3.
one is Rocky 2.
Yeah.
Because he kind of got his footing on how to make a movie. And it's
Yeah.
not as cheap looking as the first. Now, I'm not going to don't get me wrong, Rocky 1 is freaking awesome. But I think Rocky 2, like he's like, oh, this movie, I know how to make these movies now. I'm going to produce this thing the right way. Because you can see they got progressively better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and technology got better and the cost of filming got cheaper. So what used to cost more money, they could do now for less. And
Yep.
that allowed them to do more. Just filmmaking in general took off. And
Well, I was going to say a minute ago, I was going to say the 80s, because we're talking about these movies, really brought on the invention of Bruce Willis's characters. Sylvester Stallone, like what I don't know what you would call them, like not superheroes, but action film.
well, Chuck Norris,
the birth of the action film star.
I mean, I wouldn't say the 80s was the birth of it because Bruce Lee was making action movies long before. I don't even know what year he died. And Chuck Norris was, an action hero in the 60s and 70s. But I think what made him stand out more, because you and I have both probably seen Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee fighting Chuck Norris.
No, I've never seen it. I've seen Chuck
It's
Norris's
good.
movies because he's awesome.
Seen what?
I've seen Chuck Norris's movies, but not any of Bruce Lee's.
But when you get into the action movies of the 80s and you think about, I watched it the other day just for nostalgia. Go watch Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I love that movie.
Every fucking thing was blowing up. It's impossible, impractical, stupid shit.
It's the dumbest shit on the planet.
That you can't help but, I mean, without movies like Commando and Delta Force, we wouldn't have Michael Bay and The Rock and everything he's made.
So I don't know if there's a documentary about, I think it's on Netflix and it's like a series, and they had Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger's. Then about 8 months to a year later, Sylvester Stallone came out. Both of those dudes talked about, you say Commando, for instance. So Schwarzenegger said, I shot 30,000 rounds. I killed 122 people. I used 18 different weapons. Anyway,
Yeah.
Sylvester would go, well, fuck. I guess the next movie I'm going to do 3,000 fucking rounds, 150 fucking arrows, Russian fucking tanks, missiles out my ass. They had
they
this
all
whole
had to
thing
one up
where
each
they were
other.
having a fuck, yes, and they one upped each other. To hear them two talk about it, it was weird. It's two separate documentaries, and they both brought that up.
Yeah, they said that they would, anytime they saw each other, they would remind each other who was on top at that time.
Yep. If Arnold's using a fucking 10-inch knife, I'm got one that's fucking. I got a fucking machete. You know, it was just crazy.
And did you watch?
I-
did you like the Rambo movies?
I love every one of them.
Have you watched the newer ones that have come out?
Yeah.
That last one was like, how else can we kill people? We've killed them every other way. Let's figure out new ways to kill. It was like artistic brutality.
Very much grindhouse.
Yeah.
Like the other one where I think one or maybe two previous where it was really.
Oh yeah.
Out of the
Yeah.
Off the charts, out of the park, fucking grotesque, like bloody for just being bloody.
What I think is funny too is when you talk to people now who talk about actors like Stallone and Schwarzenegger and their action movies from the 80s, and they weren't alone. Of course, it was Bruce Willis with all his Die Hards and Mel Gibson and Lethal Weapon. Schwarzenegger and Stallone weren't the only action stars of the 80s. They were just the biggest.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, even Jean-Claude Van Damme had movies, and Steven Seagal wasn't.
Steven Seagal's badass, dude. All those movies he did back in the day.
Yeah. But
I met him once. And
Steven
I was like
Seagal?
this. I was like, fucking Jesus, you're tall.
He had a house in Memphis.
Yeah, he was buying a guitar from Gibson and decided to take a tour.
Do you know why he had
What?
His daughter was in St. Jude. His daughter had cancer.
Is that why he was in Memphis?
That's why he was in Memphis.
Did she die?
I don't know.
Because this was
but he's
20 years ago?
They're not in St. Jude anymore. I don't know. And I only heard that. I could be complete bullshit, but somebody told me he had a kid that was at St. Jude, which St. Jude's in.
Well, that must be now, because back then he was actually on tour because he plays guitar. He's really actually pretty good. He has a blues band. Yeah. He was touring, and he bought a guitar, and he was coming to pick it up and wanted to take a tour. So I got to meet him, and I just remember him. I think he's like 6'5", and I'm like, I didn't know that at the time. I was like, fuck, dude, you are fucking tall and big.
I wouldn't.
I don't know.
Even now that he's super fat, but
now Patrick Swayze from Roadhouse would whip his ass, but
one of the greatest movies ever made,
isn't it?
I love that movie.
My grandma in Memphis, Maryland. Remember her?
Maryland, yeah.
That was her favorite movie of all time. She'd come in there and go, Andrew, Roadhouse is on. You want to watch it with me?
She just wanted to see Swayze without his shirt on.
Roadhouse was her favorite movie. I love that movie. Hell, I even like the remake.
I did too. I mean, it was a little silly, but I thought it was. I like Jake Gyllenhaal. Damn, he got buffed up.
I know, right?
But I don't care how straight you are. You're the straightest man that's ever lived.
Yeah.
You watch Roadhouse and you see Patrick Swayze, and you gotta say, "Damn, that's a good-looking man."
The fucking handsome man.
That's a handsome man. And
I know, right?
He was so good in that movie. But anyway, what I was saying was Stallone and Schwarzenegger were King Ding-a-ling in the action movies in the 80s.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, they're so dumb. Their movies are so dumb. Okay. You go from being a dude who moves halfway across the world, doesn't speak the language, gets famous for lifting fucking weights, becomes an actor in a language he barely can speak, then becomes a governor, marries into royalty into the Kennedy family, Yeah, he's a real dumb guy. And Sylvester Stallone, writer, producer, that guy could have never stepped in front of the camera and made millions and millions of dollars. Hell, even the new show he's on now is excellent, Tulsa King.
Tulsa King.
If you haven't watched it, go watch it. That is such a good show.
That's
I,
that one guy. He does very good shows. But anyway, yeah.
the dude who was Yellowstone and all those
Tyler
shows.
Sheridan.
Tyler Sheridan, yeah.
Landman was badass. I hope they make a season 2.
I haven't watched that one yet. I will though. I just started the night. Was it 1923, 1928? The one with Harrison Ford.
23.
Their new season just started, so I watched the first episode of that. So good. All right, we've gone over some movies in no detail whatsoever, just bringing up great movies from the 80s that they're still, most of the archetypes for movies now, a lot of them are still based off of concepts that got big and popular in the 80s. Romantic comedies, feel good,
the buddy movie,
the people who start out hating each other but become the best of friends kind of movies. And those movies that really, would kind of get you. Like you watch Good Morning Vietnam and you don't get pulled on the heartstrings a little bit. There's something wrong with you.
That movie's fucking awesome.
And then movies that were just so damn, there were the so damn stupid it's funny type movies like Airplane and stuff like that. And then you had other comedies that came out that you kind of knew if you were around people you liked it, if they liked that kind of movie, like Raising Arizona.
Right.
If the other people you were around didn't like Raising Arizona, you were probably like, yeah, I'm not going to hang out with you. But I mean, still one of the greatest, and I've got the benefit of looking at a list here. One of the greatest romantic comedies of all time, When Harry Met Sally, came out in the 80s. And they're still trying to remake that with Jennifer Lopez all the fucking time.
Yeah. That's.
So let's flip the script.
I can get down with that.
Let's flip the script and look at music.
Well, I was going to say that along with the great movies, they had great fucking soundtracks because the music was really fucking good in the 1980s.
And an artist would beg for their one of their songs to be put on the soundtrack because you get a song on a good movie soundtrack, your record sales went through the roof.
Yeah, because I think the guy that wrote Danger Zone, Kenny Loggins.
Yeah.
I kind of think there's a story where does he have 2 songs on that soundtrack or just one?
I think he's got 2.
I think the one, he wrote one for the film and they were like, they needed something quick. So they give him a call. And I think the story is he wrote Danger Zone in like a day.
Yeah, and that other song he had, Playing with the Boys, that was on the soundtrack too. This was
I think he wrote that one, and then they said, "Hey, we need a rockin' filler song. Can you give us something quick? We need it." And I think he wrote Danger Zone in a day or two. Said, "Here it is."
This is the soundtrack. Number 1, Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins, Mighty Wings by Cheap Trick, Playing with the Boys by Kenny Loggins, Lead Me On by Tina Marie, Take My Breath Away by Berlin. Of course,
yeah, I can't stand that fucking song.
That was during the fucking scene.
Yeah, I hate that song.
I do too. Hot Summer Nights by Miami Sound Machine. Like, a lot of people would say that was kind of early into hip hop. But Heaven in Your Eyes by Loverboy. Hate that band. Through the Fire by Larry Green. And Destination Unknown by Marlita Waters. Then the Top Gun anthem was some orchestra dude. But I mean, you look at almost every name on that soundtrack was top musicians at the time.
Yeah.
Love it or hate it, Berlin was at, everybody in the world knew that little British pop band, or not British, German. And Loverboy, everybody knew who Loverboy was. Kenny Loggins was on MTV every 10 minutes.
It
But
had a great mullet. Kenny Loggins did.
somebody needs to bring back the 80s mullet. Theo Vaughn is trying, but he's not quite getting it right.
Oh, it's out there. It's out there.
You got to get the proof on the top.
Ask your son.
Oh,
college kids love especially down in the South, they love the mullet.
And he is a coach of a college baseball team. Every other kid on that team has got a fucking mullet.
Right. I'm going to grow one. Fuck it.
He said you knew it was getting bad when even the black guys were trying to grow mullets. Let me know how that works out, because I'm having trouble with it.
Well, I'm sure some black guys have had mullet. Anyways, yeah, the soundtrack's good. Like, a lot of movies had good soundtracks. Like, really did. Beverly Hills Cop is another great soundtrack.
I think, and see, and it's kind of hard for us to really say for sure, because we weren't around really then. I was growing up in the 70s, but I wasn't really paying attention to things I liked until into the 80s. But you had so many different, very popular, and I mean top 40 radio, MTV, Airplay, magazine, everything. Such a wide, diverse groups of musicians. Like, you had Whitney Houston and Madonna and Cyndi Lauper, and those pop singers, Michael Jackson, Prince, that were more your pop singer with a backup band. And then you had
right.
like pop bands. Like, remember, Queen was still active in the 80s.
Yeah, they were. Best 21 minutes played live, 1985.
But
Wembley. It was in Wembley.
You started getting pop, more, a bigger amount of pop bands. I mean, they've had pop bands forever with the Beatles and that kind of stuff. But, like, you had Aha, Men at Work. What are some of the other ones? Depeche Mode, New Order,
The Cure. I mean,
The Cure, Toto,
Lord, 38 Special, ZZ Top. I mean,
well, I would kind of take ZZ Top, 38 Special, call them more of a rock band, not a pop band. You had bands like Journey that kind of they were a little bit of both,
pop rock.
Yeah,
like you're talking about pure pop music. Yeah.
But what I was the biggest fan of that came up, it's mid 80s all the way, is that thrash metal. Anthrax came out, Slayer came out. The Metallica's first record was early 80s.
The Big Four.
Yeah, and then Megadeth came out a couple years later. But Slayer, Slayer didn't get a ton of radio play, and they still wouldn't get a ton of radio play just because they are the extreme of that group of musicians. But to me, that was the biggest thing I loved about 80s music, was that thrash metal, borderline punk rock, and I love punk rock and hardcore and all that too. But you were into more bands like Def Leppard.
I like both sides. Yeah.
You've always had more of a broader musical taste than I have.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of punk rock, but there's some punk rock that I can fucking get down with. Okay. Then you go all these fucking stupid subgenres like New York style hardcore and West Coast fucking. So, but yeah, I listened to both sides when I was a kid, like all those bands.
Okay, well,
but I mean, I love the like new wave music. like
Mm-hmm.
what you would call, I guess, dance music today, but stuff like New Order, The Cure, like that, Depeche Mode, all those
Yeah.
British, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
New
yeah.
wave.
Yeah.
And
I
I
mean,
loved heavy
that was
metal.
the genre of it, new wave.
I loved heavy metal,
Okay. Well, we both
and I
talked
loved
about
hard
having
rock.
having a Walkman, having boom boxes, and the majority of the music I ever bought for myself was on cassette tape.
Probably me too.
Do you have a cassette you played so much you broke the tape?
I don't know that I broke the tape, but I wore the fuck out of it.
Which one?
Um, you're gonna fucking laugh. Men at Work.
Which the Land Down Under album?
Yep.
That was a cool record. I remember
I think
listening
the
to
album
it.
was called Work. I think.
Was it?
I'm
Mine
not sure. I'd have
was
to look it up.
mine
That's my,
was Never Mind the Bollocks by the Sex Pistols.
yeah,
I,
that's a good freaking record.
I literally played it so much that the tape snapped. And it had gotten to that point where it was hissing all the time and you could barely make out what song was even on, but I still just kept playing it.
Probably a close second would probably have been Master of Puppets.
I had to be careful with that song because growing up in a strict Southern Baptist household, uh, you ain't listening to that devil music in my house kind of thing. So I had to
Hey,
hide all the Metallica and Slayer, and I had to hide all those cassettes.
my stepmom threw away a Pat Benatar record, so
Whew. She's coming to Memphis. I just saw a billboard the other day. She is coming to Memphis.
yeah, she's evil as fuck, dude. Like,
There are musicians that came up in the 80s that some of them are still putting out music today.
oh, a lot of them are. If they're alive, they're probably still putting out music.
Well, and when I say still putting out music today, I mean they've got new albums coming out. They're
Oh
still touring.
no,
Uh,
I thought you meant just like playing. But you're probably
and
right. Not a lot of them. And hey, you know I love fucking Duran Duran, but dude, their last album I think is 2 years old. I was like, and I get it. They're 70 fucking years old.
well, and you're older too, so
Yes.
your tastes are going to change some. And one thing I hate, and we've argued about it 100 times before. I might as well bring it out publicly.
All right.
I do not like Metallica's Black Album.
Really? Okay.
I,
A lot of people don't. I think side one, great. B side, shit.
but the knock on Metallica when they came out with that album was, oh, they're changing. They're changing. Okay. I hate when people
Do you
say
know
that.
that's? Do you know sad but true is every band member says that's the heaviest song we ever wrote.
As an overall collective, it's just not my favorite Metallica record. I don't think it's and I'm only talking about my favorite, not how
Oh
good
yeah,
it
yeah.
is or anything like that. Um, but
You just didn't like it.
it just wasn't. There are songs off of it, like "Sad but True," that I think are really good. But overall, I wouldn't listen to shit. I wouldn't listen to it front to back, nonstop.
And that motherfucker has kind of their most iconic riff. Down, down, out. You know,
Which song? Oh, it's Inner Sandman.
track number. Yeah, I understand, man.
Yeah, the one everybody knows
Because
because it was
yes,
everywhere.
the real Metallica fans would be like, fucking Master of Puppets. You know what I'm saying? Is their iconic song. But to most people, Inner Sandman.
Yeah,
Do you know how many sports teams use that shit to walk out on the field?
ton.
It's fucking insane, dude.
But the knock on them was their sound was changing because remember the last record they did before that was Injustice for All
Fucking love that album.
with songs like Battery and Dyer's Eve on it, and then Inner Sandman. It was like a shift. I
Yeah.
hate when people say some stuff like that about artists. Like, oh, Metallica went softer. Um, uh, when like, do you
The
know the
biggest
band?
term would be that fucking band sold out.
Yeah,
Green Day sold out.
they sold out. Have you ever heard? You probably have, but just in
Now I
case.
will say this: homie from the Green Day said, writing that song that's used at all the fucking stupid graduations and shit. I don't know the fucking
Yeah,
name of it. He
yeah,
said
I know
that's
what
the
song you're
most
talking
punk rock motherfucking thing I could ever do. That's a different story, but he said that.
I like Green Day. They've got a lot of
Yeah.
great songs that I like. I'm not gonna when they come out with a new album, I'm not rushing to Spotify to listen to the whole thing, but I like Green Day. I got no problem with them,
Yeah.
and I grew up on punk rock. Yeah, so I don't give a shit about that.
Punk
But
rock was
I hate when
very
people
popular in
say
the 80s.
this artist sold out, or this actor sold out, or this director or whatever. You know, musicians and actors and directors, any artist, any creative person, they're change over time. And when we get artists that are good enough to be around for 20 or 30 or 40 years, you're not going to sound the same because they're going to get better at what they do. They're going to get more prolific in what they do. Like a songwriter, you go listen to the first songs most songwriters wrote and then come back and listen to them 30 years later. You're going to be like, damn, it's like you got a PhD or something. That dude's
Right?
better at what he's doing, and he's changing as a person. Playing blast beats was probably a big deal to Lars Ulrich back in the day. But sooner or later, he's like, I kind of want to change this up. Musicians change. If every album they come out with sounds like the last album, then I think you're kind of getting ripped off. So you want to hear differences in them, but that's not why.
Well, you know how many careers that's ended?
Okay, well, look at somebody like, as much as I hate her, I don't hate her. I hate
You
what
gonna
she
say Taylor
represents.
Swift?
Look at Taylor Swift. Little
From
country girl
country to pop?
to stripper rock or whatever.
Uh,
But
I'm sort of on the fence on that, man. I can't stand when I buy a band's next record and they've like fucking gone off in La La Land, and you're like, fuck, this sucks.
okay, you listen to
I'm like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, I just go, this is fucking horrible. What the fuck are you guys thinking, dude?
all right, go listen to Tool's Undertow.
I
Their
fucking
first,
hate that album.
their first album. It
Yeah, I
was
can't
just
stand
a,
it.
it was just a slightly progressive rock album.
Yeah,
Nothing really crazy or special
I'm
about it.
glad you brought Tool up.
And then now listen to the latest Tool album. It's not the same band. It's the same, well, most of the same people, but they've all gotten better and grown as musicians and people over time. And this is just what comes out of that growth. Love it or hate it, people change.
You're correct.
You didn't
You are
like the
absolutely
last Tool
correct.
album.
I can't stand that fucking album. I
It's
can't stand their last two albums.
it's the first Tool album I don't like listening to track one till it's over.
When I
In
first
one
got the
go.
album, I did listen to it, like, and I wanted to like it. I even like bullshitted myself into thinking I like it. Now, if I hear that anyone, I'm just like, and Danny
I
Carey, as much as I love him, I don't want to hear you doing that that fucking song on their last album. It's a whole song with him playing the fucking drums, and it's fucking retarded. Some chocolate chip.
trip.
Oh fuck! Danny Carey. You should stop it. Like, this fucking retarded.
I liked
I'm
it.
sorry, and I love Tool. They're probably in my top 3 bands. I love them, but they piss me off. I wait 10 fucking years to get this fucking last album, or the one before that, and you're like, what the fuck? The fuck is this? This album sucks. Like, from the first note, you just go, what the fuck have y'all been doing for 10 goddamn years?
Uh,
Like seriously,
500 side projects, but
fuck. I sometimes think he loves fucking A Perfect Circle better than his own band Tool.
I don't know.
And he's a pretentious, funny motherfucker. I love Maynard,
Oh, he's
but
hilarious. I love that guy.
you stupid motherfuckers need to stop. I don't need to hear an 8 minute fucking long bullshit Tool song. What's the one song? Is 11 fucking minutes on that one album?
Tempest.
I don't need that in my life. I don't.
But do you
This is
think?
why bands like Kiss and AC/DC have been doing this shit, or the Stones have been doing this shit for 50 fucking years. Because they know if they don't grab you the first fucking chord, you're toast.
Well, you listen to Back in Black from AC/DC. That is like rock star training school. That's a very, very basic, very simple album that just sounds great because it didn't need to be overcomplicated. But you listen to Back in Black and then go listen to Thunderstruck.
It is the greatest hard rock record ever made. And it's tied to me very closely. Like just Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction is right there. Hard rock.
Let's remind everybody that's your opinion. You're not not trying to piss people off. I'd put Master of Puppets as one of my favorite albums. Doesn't have to be rock album, just album overall,
top to bottom.
Back.
Great fucking record.
Turn it on and just relax.
Welcome Home Sanitarium still gives me chills.
You know,
when I hear it. Disposable Heroes.
You bring that album up,
damn.
And it's bittersweet because it is the last album we had Cliff Burton for. And
I just thought he would have been 67.
Yeah. Do you know his dad donated all of Cliff's royalties he got from Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and Master of Puppets? All of the royalties still went to Cliff. They went to his dad. The band decided to give them to his dad.
Yeah.
His dad donated all of Cliff's royalties to like all these different music scholarship funds across Northern California, in San Francisco and Oakland, that whole area where they were from.
That's cool.
Until he died. He died in like 2024. So
still going on?
No, I don't know what's happening with the money now, but up until Cliff's dad died, he was donating all that money for scholarships for kids. I thought it was really cool.
That's cool.
A way to, and it was like the Cliff Burton Foundation or something. So it was a cool way to let Cliff's name live on.
They've said he was really humble and really funny.
Oh yeah,
like down to earth.
Lars, in some of their other earlier interviews, said he used to get so mad at James and Cliff because James was like super shy. The only time he'd be facing the crowd is when he had to sing, and then he would turn his back to the crowd and look at the drums. But they said Cliff would just kind of just be over there doing his thing, and Lars had to kind of push him to get more and more and more into it, and that's when you start seeing Cliff doing the big whirlwind headbanging while he's playing, and I think a lot of helped with the stage fright.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like he was so freaking talented, and all those songs that he arranged. Like you listen to Orion, that song that starts out with just the bass.
Yep.
You know, those were all arranged and largely written by Cliff Burton. He was just such an incredible, amazing talent. And when I hear
James Hetfield was like a god to me back in those days. That fucking, like, his long hair, his like bracelets and the sweatbands, and he had that fucking ESP Explorer down to his knees
and jamming on downstrokes.
Just all fucking downstrokes. Fucking
dude didn't know how to play an upstroke, but he could play faster than anybody else out there.
I don't know how the fuck he did it, dude. I really don't.
Well, and just
because every time I played Master of Puppets, I'm that stroke. I can't do that.
No.
Can't.
But okay, prior to the 80s, guitar players you think of like Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, um, guitar Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, guitar players like that. They stood out. Phenomenal, amazing, legendary guitar players. But you get into like that 80s, especially like mid 80s into the late 80s, guitar players, it's like the skill level on guitar players went from here to here in a really short period of time. You're looking at people like Steve Stevens, Yngwie Malmsteen, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, and then you get into the ones like Slash that are in bands, and Nuno Betancourt and Extreme, Eddie Van Halen, The Godfather. It's like every band had phenomenal level guitar players that could play every note Eric Clapton could play every note Jimi Hendrix could play. You look at Scotty Hill from Skid Row, and you had Steve Clark and Phil Collins and Def Leppard. Amazing guitar, Richie Sambora, amazing guitar players, and they were all condensed in this like maybe 6-year period in the 80s. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
I was thinking about
I'm not trying to talk shit.
I was thinking about Steve Clark. He was a cool motherfucker too, dude.
Yeah.
He's another one of my inspirations. Fucking long blonde hair, fucking no shirt. Les Paul slung down practically to his fucking knee, like his ankles. I don't even know how the fuck he played the shit.
But
it was just a good time for music, man. Even pop music was so good back then.
In the 70s, you had bands like Zeppelin who had the big, loud stage costumes. Like Jimmy Page was always in like flames and dragons and shit on his bell bottoms, and Robert Plant was just fucking Robert Plant. You know, damn near get you pregnant just by watching him. But that wasn't that stage presence, that style that wasn't as prevalent then. But then you get into like Twisted Sister, Kiss, and all these. Well, Kiss probably
started that shit, right?
Yeah, but
pretty much
that cool guy on stage became that cool guy everybody wanted to be off the stage.
Right.
Are you talking about Steve Clark with like a leather jacket and no shirt and leather pants, and Hetfield out there in ripped up jeans and a Motorhead t-shirt and a belt with spikes on it? And you didn't see people in the 70s walking down the street in velvet bell bottoms with flames up and down the sides like Jimmy Page would wear on stage.
No.
But you go into the 80s and you walk down the street and you see this guy in super tight jeans and a Motorhead t-shirt with long hair. It's like that motherfucker could have been on stage the night before.
Take a stroll down the Sunset Strip in like 1985.
Shit.
Jesus.
Spandex and Aquanet, baby.
Man, oh man. I love watching video of festivals from the 80s. Like the US Festival, or the big one that was in Wembley, the We Are the World. I forgot what it's called.
Live Aid.
John
Cougar Mellencamp was on there.
Yeah.
I used to love John Cougar Mellencamp.
That motherfucker smokes 5 packs of cigarettes a day.
Yeah. Hey,
don't even know how you have the fucking time. But anyway, yeah, John Cougar Mellencamp's cool, dude. I didn't realize the lyrics to Jack and Diane were as dirty as they were until I was like 40. I really didn't.
There's a woman who does these shorts.
I didn't know sucking on a chili dog behind the Tasty Freeze meant that.
With his hand between her knees.
I didn't know it meant that until I was like 40.
There's this woman who puts videos up on YouTube, and I forget her name. But she's listening to songs that were popular in the 80s. She's probably a little bit younger than us, maybe late 40s.
Yeah.
But she'll listen to songs now as an adult that she listened to as a kid and start to catch the lyrics to it and be like, oh. She's fucking hilarious. I'll have to find her name and bring it to you. put it
Like,
in
you know
here.
that song, do you like pina coladas and
Oh yeah, the Jimmy Buffett
have you
song.
have no, it's his name is it's not Jimmy Buffett.
Not Jimmy Buffett.
His name is Herbert or
Getting caught
something.
in the rain.
Herbert
Yeah,
something.
that was trying. Dude was trying to hook up for a one night stand.
Yeah, and he actually hooks up with his wife that put the one night stand.
Yeah.
I love that song. I honestly did not. I listened to the song one day on the way to work like 6 months ago, and I went, "What the fuck?" He's
Well,
meeting up with his wife. Puts an ad. He
yeah.
puts one there because he's pissed off. They end up meeting. I didn't know that. Anyway,
Okay. This song, this album didn't come out in the 80s. It came out in 77, but he was still a big, very popular act during the 80s. And Meatloaf.
yeah.
Have you ever listened to that song in detail? Listen to the lyrics in detail of "Paradise" by the Dashboard Lights.
Maybe.
Funniest fucking song I've ever heard. Makes me laugh. I literally laugh
Funny. I
every
mean,
time I hear it.
what's he talking about?
It starts because he was like a big time theatrical performer,
Yeah.
and he wrote with other people who wrote songs for musicals and stuff like that. So all their songs try to tell stories. The song starts out, he's picking up this girl he's got the hots for in high school, and she's getting in his car and they're going out driving around. Then he's trying to, moves on to he's trying to get some. And but then she throws it back at him. It's like, will you love me forever? And he's going back and forth about, do I say I'll love her forever to get some, or do I say no? Let me think on it. Let me get some. Going back and forth. And it's like huge, big climactic part where obviously they got busy. Then the whole second half of the song is him wishing that the end of time would come so he could end his time with her.
Oh my god, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that song, dude.
Go listen to that song.
Who
Better
I
yet,
would have never broke that down out of those lyrics.
go watch a video. One of my favorite genres of videos to watch on YouTube are the reaction videos. Go watch a Paradise by the Dashboard Lights reaction video, especially if a woman's doing it and she's catching on to it. Just the reaction is totally different than what you or I would have, and it is hilarious.
And like one of my I love Bryan Adams. You know this, right? Did you know like most of his hit songs are about him cheating on his girlfriend?
I haven't listened to him in that
I've
much
never
detail.
noticed. There, Jessica goes. All his hit songs are about one night stands. All of them.
That little Canadian motherfucker.
I was like,
thing, though.
I never got that from the lyrics.
Okay, tell me this: when you listen to music, what do you primarily just focus on? First time you hear a song, it's a band you like. You hear it. What are you listening to?
The band?
Like just the riff,
mean-
the feel, the groove, or whatever.
If it doesn't catch me in like 10 seconds,
Okay.
it probably have to be. If it's a rock band or a metal band, I'm gonna hear the riff.
Yeah.
Riff.
I tend to key in on the drums and the beat and the rhythm of it.
But that's very
groove or whatever.
yeah.
I've got songs now that I could probably sing along every word to. No fucking clue what they're about because I do not pay attention to lyrics.
I mean, I don't really either. I have no idea what the fuck say Lamb of God is talking about in the song Redneck.
I have no idea.
I mean, I kind of think I know I have an idea, but or like what Chester Bennington, his lyrics. I have no idea what the fuck you were talking about in any one of those fucking songs he wrote.
Some songs that really grab me, and the ones I'm thinking of right now are typically going to be Pearl Jam songs. Just maybe because I've listened to him more, maybe because I just dig Eddie's voice so much more. But I don't know why the lyrics to some of their songs just kind of I tend to kind of get what he's coming across as. But primarily when I listen to music, if it hadn't got a riff that catches me or a groove or something that just catches my attention, I'm not listening. That's why I say fuck people who don't like Nickelback because they got some damn good songs. Don't know what the fuck
Right?
any of them are about.
They're either about fucking, fighting, or drinking.
Hell, one of my favorite songs by them is just about a dude trying to hook up with a girl in the car and her dad catches him.
That's
Animals.
that's my favorite. That's one of my favorite songs by them.
Yeah, listen.
I like a lot of Nickelback. So yeah, I'm that guy.
I'm not gonna walk down the street in a Nickelback t-shirt.
Panic at the Disco sucks. So go fuck yourself, right?
Yeah, but I mean, everybody wants to make
judge
fun of
people
them,
by
but
what
everybody
music they
knows their
listen.
songs.
I judge people by what music they listen to.
I don't bring it up to most people because I don't want to be disappointed.
I judge motherfuckers.
I
My
I don't
kids,
know.
I mean, they're young, but if you're like a 35-year-old housewife or older and you're listening to Taylor Swift, I don't know. I just judge people by what they listen to. Because probably I get judged by what I listen to.
People could probably look at you and me and go, "Yeah, I don't think that guy's going home and listening to Chris Brown."
Right. But the most fucked up thing is, I listen to all kinds of genres. I might not have Chris Brown on my playlist, but I got fucking Run the Jewels. I got fucking like Jay-Z on that. You know what I'm saying?
I cannot stand R&B music.
Well, I can't. I don't either. I don't like it. I don't get it.
House music, techno, electronica, EDM, all that kind of shit. No, I don't want any of it.
I can get down with a little bit of what's it called? Skillet. No, he played. Remember when Skillet did that record with Korn? What's that style of music called?
I don't know. I have no. I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what the name of it is.
I do like that sort of electric music, but yeah, get the fuck out of here.
I did
like
hear
DJ music, yeah. House, no.
Nah, I don't like any of that. I don't like R&B.
No.
And you know, outside like polka or bossa nova or shit like, I don't even know what the fuck any of that shit is. So no, I don't know if I like it or not.
Bossa Nova.
I don't know. It was a setting on a Casio keyboard.
I was just about to say that, dude. That's funny as hell.
But I love metal. And when I say I love metal, I'm not diving off into the 500 different subgenres of metal. I like metal. I like it because it's hard, fast, aggressive. I like rock music and bands like Godsmack and System of a Down and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden. I like a good bit of the rock or the rap and hip hop I hear. I think that
there's some good shit out there.
Anybody who says being a rapper isn't talented, no, they're just talking in rhymes. You go try it.
Dude, Ludacris is the greatest rapper in my opinion because his delivery.
Yeah, I like Ludacris's delivery. And most of the genres of music that I like, I don't go for the like deep cut underground band nobody's ever heard of. Most of the stuff I like would be considered mainstream. Most of the metal bands I like would be considered mainstream metal bands. Rock bands, most of them are going to be pretty mainstream. Rap artists, I know Eminem and Jay-Z. I can't stand Kanye West, but I do know who he is. I don't know who your local rapper down the street is or the SoundCloud rapper who's blowing up. I don't know who they are.
Right.
Could be great, but I think for my entertainment value, the best rapper I've ever heard, in my opinion, would be Eminem. Because I like the way
I ain't going to debate that.
The way he raps. I mean,
he's good. I'm not a huge fan of him, but he's good.
I just like his music.
I like I like about 4 songs he does that are pretty good. I'm good.
Yeah, I couldn't start naming off every song off of an album or anything like that, but the big popular hits, the ones that everybody knows, I've liked most of the ones I've heard.
You do know that like most metal guys like rap too. Like it
One of
kind of
the
just
one
goes
of the
like that.
best songs I've ever heard, and I was so happy to see they did a new version of it, was when Public Enemy and Anthrax got together and did "Bring the Noise."
It was awesome.
Did you see the like anniversary update they did of it?
No,
Go to YouTube and watch it, dude. It's
I'll have
amazing.
to. It was recent. It was recently live.
I don't know exactly the context around why they did it, but it sounds like it's live, but it's not with an audience. They're like in a
Oh, okay.
warehouse or something.
Oh, right on.
But you
Yeah,
remember
I'll check that out, dude.
you remember in the original, Scott Ian from Anthrax, he did like half the raps on it.
Yeah.
Like the whole
He
second
did.
half of the song, he was doing the
Yep.
rapping parts of. In the
I
newer
love
one they
Scott Ian.
did, Chuck D did the whole thing, and he's got such a cool style of rapping.
Dude, Public Enemy does one of the best rap songs on the planet called.
Don't say
I'm gonna look this up
911 as a joke.
No. Was actually in a movie. And let me see here.
Dude, I learned some bad news the other day while you're looking.
Yeah, what's that?
Nico McBrain retired.
Who's that?
The drummer from Iron
Oh,
Maiden.
the drummer from
Iron Maiden.
yeah.
He retired. I mean, shit, he's only been doing it for 42 years. And he had a fucking stroke where he had to relearn how to use the whole right side of his body. It's
Didn't
pretty important for a drummer.
didn't their longtime guitar player retire too?
I think so. I think they've had some ins and outs with personnel just because people are like, I'm fucking 65. I don't want to do this anymore.
The song is called "Harder Than You Think." The best hip. It is the best hip hop song ever.
I'll have to go look that up. I don't. It doesn't ring a bell to me.
It was in a movie, and I believe it was in the movie. Oh my God, it's a cop movie where last
Last Boy Scout?
I'll remember in a minute. No, it's what you say when if a police officer dies in the line of duty, they say the word.
No, whatever.
I don't know. That it was in that cop movie. I'm rambling.
But music from the 80s, I think it made it. It was cool if you listened to more than one genre of music.
Yeah.
Like I didn't hear rap music until I started going to school with black people, and somebody let me listen to his Run DMC tape.
Now, is that the first hip hop tape you heard?
That I remember. If I'd heard anything before that, I don't recall. It was a guy I played football with, and I had my Walkman on and was listening to some metal record. I forgot which one. And he was like, "Here, let's trade." And he wanted to hear what I was listening to, and I got to hear what he was listening to. And I was like, "Shit, this is pretty cool."
Yeah. Dude, they did hip hop right in the 80s. 80s and early 90s. It was good back then.
And you see, from rock music, even for metal, by the time the 80s came around, they'd had almost 20 years of metal from Black Sabbath starting in the early 60s.
Yeah.
And rock music goes back, depending on how you want to look at it, could go back 100 years into the blues rock coming out of the, southern states with all the blues musicians, which morphed
The
its way
Delta.
into rock and became influential into artists like Elvis, king of rock and roll. Rock has had, 30, 40 years by the time the 80s came around to kind of have a bigger highway to drive on. You know,
Yeah.
when Grandmaster Flash did it, that first Rapper's Delight, was that Grandmaster? Whatever, first known rap song.
No, that was the Cherry Hill Gang.
Whoever it was,
The one you're thinking about is called
they didn't have a highway to go down.
Anyway.
They had a sidewalk.
they
You
came
know?
about at the same time, kind of.
Yeah, and that style and that genre of music have come about in our lifetimes, and it started with the basics of what people could do to make a beat and then have something to rap over.
It's bad now, though. My opinion.
I don't pay attention to anything current, so
I can hear the drum beat in kids' ears.
I don't listen to enough current new stuff other than artists I already know I
Right.
like Eminem. If he comes out with something new, I'll go listen to it. But I don't know any of the newer artists. My son does. He could sit here and have a 10-hour discussion with you on Juice World. But but I don't get it. But what I was getting at is, you know, like in the 70s, if you were a rock guy, you were a rock guy. If you were a disco fan, you were a disco fan.
Right.
And I think in the 80s, we kind of started listening to stuff outside of our regular genre of music. You know, I listened to punk rock, I listened to hardcore, I listened to metal, I listened to rock. But
I kind of liked all that pop music in the 80s.
I also had an Alan Jackson cassette.
Yeah, I wasn't afraid to tell anybody I liked pop music.
But, you know, it was easy to.
But damn sure I'm watching Headbangers Ball on Sunday night or Saturday night at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, it was easier to bounce around from one genre to the next. And even still today, if you listen to, I don't know why you ever would, but if you ever listen to a radio station,
yeah,
they're all
I do every
divided.
now- I do.
They're all divided up. Like you've got your country radio station, you got your classic rock radio station, your top 40 radio station, your R&B and hip hop radio station, and you know they're segregated. You're not going to hear a Guns N' Roses song on K97 in Memphis.
No.
When we had the opportunities to carry with us this little thing this big, and you could put 30 of them in your backpack, and you could listen to whatever you liked whenever you wanted to, I think it started opening people up to more genres of music. And I think we've seen a lot of different crossover where different genres try to blend together. You notice country music sounds a lot
Yep.
like pop music now because people were coming up not just listening to country music.
And then there's the country rap rock whole thing.
Yeah, the what's his name? Ryan Upchurch.
Like Hardy's album, The
Hardy,
Mockingbird, was fucking amazing.
You know, all of a sudden metal bands started playing more melodies that could easily be ripped out of a fucking Duran Duran song. It's like I honestly think that the ability to listen to whatever you want whenever you want made people fans of other types of music they wouldn't have normally listened to.
True. You ain't gonna hear any cool shit if you listen to the country station all the time your whole life.
No, all you're going to hear is country music. But if you're driving down the road and you've got your Hank Williams Jr. cassette in, your Chevy pickup truck with your girl sitting in the middle because it's got the bench seat, not these buckets, the way God intended it to be.
Oh my Lord.
And she decided she wanted to listen to fucking Whitney Houston. All I had to do was hit eject and throw in the Whitney Houston cassette, and there you go. But that sounds so silly now because I don't remember the last time in my car was on a regular radio station. Every time I get in, it automatically connects to my phone, and whatever I was last listening to on Spotify is now playing through my car. where we can listen to whatever we want any time of the day.
I listen to the radio quite a bit because I'm on those stupid boats and they have radios. So I
Yeah.
listen to the rock and pop, and I'd scan around like the hard rock, like the what you call the classic rock station. Been
Yeah.
playing the same fucking 50 songs for 40 years. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh my
Freebird.
god, if I hear fucking 38 specials, one more fucking time I'll blow my brains out. But people like listening to that shit.
And we're going to wrap this up in just a second. We've been going for a while. But if you were born, if somehow you're listening to this and you were born anytime after the 80s, go back on YouTube and look up some, whatever your favorite genre of music is. If you're a big pop fan, go look up some Prince music or Toto or I'm pretty sure everybody's heard all Michael Jackson stuff, but go look up some of that 80s pop music and you're going to see where people like Lady Gaga came from. Madonna's been doing this shit for 40 years.
Right.
If you like rock, go back and listen to Pyromania by Def Leppard and anything AC/DC put out. And
I will say this in closing. One thing about the 80s is breakfast cereal hit way harder.
Oh yeah, when it was before, the 80s was, we primarily focused on music and movies, but you look at a lot of the other stuff that came about in the 80s where how to make food cheaper. Oh, fill it full of corn syrup and instead of real sugar, that gets cheaper that way. What are you filling up your kids' bowl with so they'll have energy throughout the day? Tons
Buying
of sugar.
buying a Coke in a bottle, like a real glass bottle.
Yeah, or just food nutrition wasn't like it is and talked about today, where you've got 85 different dietary styles or diets you can go on. It was like if your mom put on a couple extra pounds, she started doing Jane Fonda's workout and doing Weight Watchers.
Right.
Frozen milk in the freezer that you were not allowed to touch no matter how hungry you got. But now it's like, oh, I'm doing keto, I'm doing carnivore, I'm doing whatever, I'm intermittent fasting. Nah, we didn't grow up with that. We grew up with Tang and Kool-Aid and
No, and I never wore a fucking helmet or knee pads when I skateboarded or rode a bicycle.
oh, you would get. Do you know that?
And oddly enough, I didn't kill myself.
Do you know that store when you lived in Memphis? Did you ever go to Cheapskates?
Absolutely.
The coolest fucking store in town. Anybody who ever comes to Memphis, Tennessee, I don't care if you're buying a T-shirt, you're buying shoes, you're buying what. You don't have to be a skateboarder. Skateboard style has gone to everybody now. Go to Cheapskates on Getwell in Memphis. Coolest fucking store.
Awesome guys.
Ever.
Freaking awesome guys.
Same dude still owns it.
I can't believe that. The thing's been there for
It was
4
there.
years.
It was there in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Like 82, I think.
Yep.
And I don't know how a brick and mortar in the bad part of town skateboard shop
Right.
still survives, but it's almost like a landmark at this point. You go there just to go there.
Yeah.
You can order the
Absolutely
shit
is.
online and get it from Amazon tomorrow, or you can go drive over to the hood and pick it up from Ron at Cheapskates.
Yep. Hell yeah.
Well, until people got all strict on rules and stuff, he had that big giant snake in the store that would.
Yeah. I remember that.
And people were like, dude, you can't have a 10-foot python slithering around your store.
I bought so much skateboard gear from that guy.
I remember I went in there one time. A dude in our neighborhood built a ramp, and the only way his parents would let other people skate on it is if you were wearing a helmet. So I had to beg my mom to take me to go buy the cool ProTech helmet, because that's what all the guys in the Bones Brigade videos wear.
Yep.
And I remember dude getting it off the shelf because it was like behind the counter up on the shelf. I was like, yeah, can I get that black ProTech helmet? And then, of course, I had to buy 50 stickers to put all over it. But he was like, damn, this is the first helmet we've sold in like 5 years. It's the only time I ever went and bought a helmet because the dude's he built it like a mini ramp,
But I
and
mean, a lot of skate parks require that shit today,
his
and they did
parents
back then.
his parents wouldn't let you skate on his ramp unless you were wearing a helmet. And skate parks didn't exist when we were skating. You skated on the streets, or you had a
Yep.
friend whose dad was cool. Maybe they built a launch ramp or a curb or something for you to put in the parking lot and skate on. But no, we didn't have skate parks.
No.
More than one of us is eating shit when one of our wheels caught a rock.
Yeah, absolutely. Fucking, oh, fucking fly swat the ground. Boom.
There was this hill. Me and a bunch of my friends, we would walk home from school, but we would cut across the schoolyard, and this lady was nice enough to open her back gate and let us come through her yard to get into this cove. But then this hill went straight down to our neighborhood where we lived. And it was kind of like one of those testicular fortitude tests, if you were willing to ride down this hill or not. It was,
Yeah.
it's probably not near as steep as I remember it being a lot more steep than it actually is, but it looked like you were going like this straight down the hill.
Right.
Dude, I just gotten a brand new deck. I put my tracker trucks and my Rat Bones wheels on it. I got me a Sims Kevin Staub, baby. I was cool.
Yeah, that's a good board.
First day of riding home, and I remember back in the day, everybody had rails, the plastic grips down the side of your board. Some people had the tail guards that screwed onto. I never did like those.
I didn't like nobody. They weren't around very long.
But all I'd done to this board was put grip tape on the top and put my trucks and wheels on it. I put my Lance Mountain away, started riding my Kevin Staub, riding home down that hill. First time, caught a rock so hard I went face first down the street on my cheek, doing the scorpion, and the board flipped over my head, hit just right on the tail, and split it.
Oh shit!
First day of having it.
That sucks.
Yeah, but that's the Lance Mountain got back out again.
Santa Cruz is my board. That's the ones I liked the best. I probably rode those more than any board.
But go back and check out the 80s, and you'll look at things and you'll go, man, this is like not very advanced.
Right.
But remember, that's where a lot of this shit got started. You go watch a Bones Brigade skateboard video now, it looks like a bunch of amateurs, but those were the top pros of their time.
Yep.
And you go watch Live Aid and you're going to look at that and go, Bruno Mars does 10 times more in his live show. But that was the beginning of, the bands like the Rolling Stones and people like that and Led Zeppelin and Queen had kind of gotten it all started in the 70s, but the 80s really took over the giant stage show.
Yep.
So you go back and watch a Metal Fest you go watch Monsters of Rock from 1984 and see Van Halen playing. It doesn't quite look like Ozfest does today with the stage shows and everything.
Right.
That's where a lot of the stuff you still see today was just getting going.
Yep. Absolutely was.
So if you're too young to remember, go back and check out the 80s and the movies. There's not enough of them. There's not enough hours in the day to watch all the great movies from the 80s if you haven't seen them.
Exactly.
Not enough hours in the days to go back and listen to all the great music that came out of the 80s, no matter what genre of music you like.
Right.
There's stuff from the 80s that was phenomenal.
It was, man.
And we did not even, and we're going to cut it off and we're not going to keep going, but we didn't even bring up the TV shows.
I know.
And a lot of the things that kind of changed society in general.
That's a whole nother podcast.
I mean, in the 70s, you didn't tell anybody you were gay.
Right.
In the 80s, it wasn't safe by any means, but people were a lot more free to express themselves fully. And we got educated on shit like HIV and crack and all the societal changes that came about in the 80s, good or bad.
Right. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, that could be a whole nother show. On its
Politics of
own.
the 80s and
Woo.
yeah. Ooh.
And,
All right.
and we don't talk a whole lot of politics on here, but if I've got an opinion or something that I believe in, I'll be happy to say it.
Okay.
And if
I will too.
anybody out there disagrees, let me know. We'll talk about it.
All right on, brother.
Dude, good talking to you again.
Yep.
And
We'll see you next week, okay?
y'all take care.